Hello and welcome to the Culture Report. I'm Antonia Velez. On Wednesday, Israel and Hamas agreed to the first phase of a U.S.-brokered ceasefire in Gaza. This is part of a 20-point plan crafted by the Trump administration. Questions remain, though, about some aspects of this plan, including whether Hamas will demilitarize and who will eventually govern the war-torn territory. NBC's Richard Engel has the latest details.
In Egypt this morning, Israel and Hamas committed to President Trump's plan to end the war in Gaza. And now, relief and celebrations in Gaza and in Israel. This was the moment when President Trump told the families of Israeli hostages over the phone that their loved ones would be coming home.
The hostages will come back. They're all coming back on Monday.
Diplomacy moved quickly over the last 24 hours. Yesterday afternoon, Secretary of State Marco Rubio interrupted President Trump at a White House event.
I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly.
The note said Trump needed to approve a post so he could be the first to announce that the deal was reached. Under the deal, Hamas must release all the hostages it's still holding, 20 believed to be still alive, and the remains of 28 more. Israeli troops agreed to pull back from Gaza in stages and free hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. Aid and reconstruction materials flood into Gaza, and Hamas leaves power for good. The toll of this war has been shocking since it began on October 7th, 2 years ago, when Hamas terrorists stormed into Israel, murdering more than 1,200 people and taking 251 hostages, including babies. Israel responded by flattening Gaza, displacing the population, driving many to starvation, and killing more than 67,000, according to local health officials. Israeli officials said the military campaign was the only way to pressure Hamas, while Israeli hostages and their families waited in agony. Now, perhaps this dark page in history is turning.
Hours after Israel and Hamas agreed to the ceasefire deal, explosions were observed in Gaza, as reported by NBC News. The blasts were seen and heard from southern Israel. Meantime, the Israeli government is soon expected to vote on the deal before it takes effect. Censorship is so 1984. Read for your rights. That's the theme of this year's Banned Books Week, which ends on October 11th. National Banned Books Week has been held annually since 1982, created in the face of a rise in challenges to books across the country. The American Library Association says 2,452 unique titles were challenged in 2024. This is the third highest number documented by the group and a sharp increase from their yearly average of challenged titles between 2001 and 2020, which was 273. This year, one library system in the state is giving Coloradans the opportunity to read hundreds of banned books. Anythink Libraries in Adams County is publishing their Freedom to Read digital collection, which they say is the first of its kind in Colorado. It gives users access to nearly 500 books and documents that have been banned, challenged, and restricted in the U.S., from fiction books to even the Constitution. The ALA's data shows 137 titles were challenged in Colorado last year. Anythink's executive director Mark Fink says he's noticed a dramatic rise in challenges for titles offered in public and school libraries over the past 5 years. And this project is all about giving people access to information and allowing them to form their own conclusions.
If we don't have access to that content, it's really hard to appreciate a different point of view, to verify factual information, or to understand another person's experience. As Colorado becomes more diverse, we have folks that may not see themselves in some of the works that are written that are in public libraries. So by diversifying our collections and showing a wide variety of experiences, people are going to see themselves in that work.
And any Coloradan over 13 can find the collection through the Palace Project app. The newest effort to help fund public television is coming in the form of happy little trees. 30 of the late Bob Ross's original paintings are to be auctioned off. They will be sold in various auctions starting on November 11th. The money from those auctions will be used to help make up for federal funding cuts to public television. Ross's show, The Joy of Painting, aired for more than a decade on PBS in the 1980s and 90s. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, a time to educate folks about intimate partner abuse, uplift survivors, and spotlight advocates and organizations that support them. Intimate partner violence impacts more than 12 million people each year, according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They report that in the United States, an average of 24 people per minute experience stalking, physical violence, or rape by their partner. In Denver, reports show that over the last 10 years, domestic violence offenses have followed an upward trend. Data from the Denver Police Department show that in 2015, there were 4,036 domestic violence offenses reported by the end of September. In 2020, that number rose to 4,366 for that same time frame. And this year, as of September 30th, there have been 5,721 reports of domestic violence offenses. I had a conversation with people who work at 2 Colorado-based organizations that offer resources to survivors, and they say, though the numbers are rising, domestic violence has always been a prevalent issue, one they continue to spread awareness about. Here's part of our chat. From both of your perspectives, being so involved in the work, why is it so important to talk about things like domestic violence?
Everyone knows someone who's experienced it or has experienced it. You hear the stats, 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 folks have experienced domestic violence in their lifetime. And when we start to think about the children who have witnessed domestic violence, it is really prevalent.
I think also bringing awareness to the issue gives us an opportunity to be able to debunk some of those myths and misconceptions that are out there. A lot of times people don't know what domestic violence is. And so being able to talk about it and really clear some of those things up might spark something in somebody saying, hey, that's kind of happening in my home or in my relationship, and give them an opportunity to reach out to agencies like ours and seek support.
On that, what are some of those misconceptions that people have that you see are harmful when it comes to domestic violence?
Something that we see a lot with our younger folks is this idea of toxic relationships. I think that's been kind of glamorized as a term, especially in schools and in media and music and things like that. But toxic relationships is often a way to say a power and control relationship, a domestic violence or an intimate partner violence relationship.
One of the things that people who choose to use abuse do often blame the survivors or they blame the victims. And so people are walking in this world feeling like they are at fault for the thing that had happened to them. And so we spend a lot of time working with survivors, helping them understand that somebody did something to them, and they did it because they want power over another human. They want to control how another person shows up. I think one of the other biggest things and why Domestic Violence Awareness Month is so important is it's not only to help the survivors themselves, but it's to help their families. And so sometimes we are the first people to recognize that maybe a relationship isn't healthy. And we can see some not great things in those spaces. And so we're able to, during this month and all times throughout the year, but really focus this month on how you can help people who are in these relationships. Telling a person to just leave or get out of a relationship it can actually be extremely dangerous and put people in harm's way.
What are some red flags or things that you think people should look out for in their relationships, but also in the relationships of their loved ones?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest ones that we see often is isolation. And so when we talk about community as your support, and as community is what helps people get out of relationships like this, it was when we cut people off from their community. So they have nobody else to lean into. That's one of the biggest ones that we see.
Yeah, I think really what it comes down to, we use the term power and control all the time because that's really kind of the core of where domestic violence comes from, is that shift in power dynamics within a relationship. So any sort of dynamic where somebody loses their own autonomy in the relationship is something that you should look out for.
I want to ask you about what you've seen over the years in Colorado or within your specific organizations. Talk to me about whether you've noticed a change in the number of people seeking help.
Yeah, at the Rosandom Center, I mean, we continue to see an uptick in survivors that we serve. One of the big partners that we work with at the Rosandom Center is the Denver Police Department. The detective unit, the domestic violence detective unit, is actually housed in our building, and they consistently are seeing higher and higher numbers. So Denver crime rates are going down, but domestic violence cases are unique in that they're consistently going up every single year. And so domestic violence, like Cassie said, isn't something new, but it's something that is continuing to increase, and we're hearing more about it. So I think part of it is maybe reporting more, but also it's not slowing down.
No, it's definitely not slowing down, but I think organizations like Rosandom and Family Tree, where we're constantly bringing awareness to these issues, survivors now have more resources than they did before to come out and get help. You now have police departments who have victims advocates who are trained to support survivors.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you both for coming here and helping raise awareness and educating others about this very, very serious and real matter that we're seeing in Denver and beyond. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you feel is important to highlight? How can people find you all? Can people help your organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and probably for the both of us, that, I mean, right now with the cuts to victim services, the federal shutdown, I mean, one of the biggest things that we're experiencing as agencies is just limited resources. And so I think one of the biggest ways that people can support survivors is to support your local agencies that serve survivors.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think programs like Family Tree and Rosandom are being asked to do more with less. And our calls aren't going down. Our nights of shelter are not going down. Last year, we provided over 8,800 nights of shelter for survivors of domestic violence and their children and their families. And so when funding is being cut and we're putting programs like this at risk, we definitely need all the support that we can get.
You can find out more about the services at Rosandom Center and the Family Tree at their websites. And you can also listen to this full conversation on 9 News Plus. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, there is help out there. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 800-799-7233. And something we love to do here on the Culture Report is shout out the people in our community who are doing the work to make it a better, brighter place. Our first shout out this week goes to the walking miracle, Amanda Farron. This weekend, Amanda is making waves and inspiring others just by walking. Despite dealing with a terminal illness called scleroderma and having broken over 30 bones, Amanda is taking on the Chicago Marathon. She's currently on a journey to complete over 180 miles of walking over the course of multiple marathons before the end of the year, including the Berlin Marathon, which she completed in September.
I wear my sparkles and I get all excited because I do love to do these races, but nothing about the way I do races is typical. I show up for every race I've ever done, every half marathon and full marathon, in full sparkles, ready to go, because every step for me is truly a miracle and a gift.
And two Colorado brothers were chosen to represent the country in an international chess competition known as the Paralympics of Chess. Griffin McConnell and his younger brother Sullivan are flying out to Kazakhstan next week for the Chess Olympiad for people with disabilities. When Griffin was 8, he went through a procedure that separated half of his brain from the other half to help stop seizures. Years later, and now part of a national chess team, Griffin told our Evan Krugel that the game helped him recover as he relearned how to walk and talk.
Chess is kind of something that is a very much of a thinking game, but I think with my disabilities and everything that I have, it doesn't affect me whatsoever. And so it's like, it's so cool to have a sport that I can do that I love that doesn't change who I am. It's been pretty amazing considering with all the things that's happened to me, but I think it's pretty amazing with how, my chess has become kind of a symbol to me, and now chess is going to be forever.
We'd love some help to figure out who deserves a shout out next week. Whether it's one person or a whole organization, we want to hear about the people who are making a difference in your community. So send us a text at 303-871-1491 and tell us about the folks you think deserve a 9 shout out. And don't be surprised when we reach back out to you to ask about your special people. If you want to see more Culture Report or any of our 9 News content, you can find us on the 9 News Plus app or 9news.com.